So Bindu, please could you introduce yourself, okay, and tell us who you work for and your hobby.
My name is Binru. I'm the CEO of OneConnect, and we're the fintech subsidiary of the Ping An Group. My hobby is my dogs, I presume. My kids are grown. My husband's not so interesting anymore, so my dogs are quite interesting. Well, if I don't work, I spend time with the two dogs. I have two Yorkies. They're called Cherry and Blueberry. Well, they came with a fruity name by the breeder, so I didn't change them because they were responding well to it. And they're sisters, same parents. Really nice to spend time with. So I do my own grooming. I shower, do everything on my own. I don't use a groomer actually.
That's great to hear. That's awesome. Okay, Janita, please.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Janita. I'm data strategy partner for retail, channels, and digital under UOB. So I work under data management office. I've been here for 2 years in Singapore. In terms of hobby, Mohit would know this. I'm a true advocate of Pilates. I ask everybody to please try that program at least once in your life. It does wonder for your body. And I'm really happy that now the circuit breakers allow the Pilates studios to be back open. So I've been attending it now since Friday. There you go.
Awesome. Pranava, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Pranava. I work with Credit Suisse as the head of platforms for PB International, and we are doing data and anything related to the data. My hobby is sports, but since I was not been playing for quite some time now, I've taken interest in yoga. So I've been starting to do yoga for the last couple of months at home.
Awesome. Yoga is a good thing. Guillaume, please.
Hey, I'm Guillaume. I'm head of change management and innovation in Asia Pacific for ABN AMRO. ABN AMRO Bank is a Dutch bank focused on corporate banking in Asia. And as a hobby, I like to read and write outside work. And also I like sport. I do a lot of touch football.
Wow. So sports are coming back somehow. They're going to try to get them all back in, so it'll be pretty neat, right? That's good.
Yeah, I've been running a lot in McRitchie and waiting for the circuit breaker to be off.
Right, that's a good place to run, actually. It's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about literally enhancing data sharing to enable transformation and service delivery. Now, that sounds like a lot, but if we get a chance today of breaking this down into 3 parts. Our first part, we're going to concentrate a little bit more towards data sharing, because I found that to be a little hard because we are collecting an enormous amount of data right now. How do we start to share that data with our internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders to ensure that we're getting the most out of it? Because at the end of this, it's supposed to give us information that we can use to make better decisions. So, Janina, can I start with you? What's your take on this? How do we drop those silos and really start sharing information or data amongst the internal and external stakeholders?
Yeah, I think that's very relevant, Mohit. I think definitely for UOB, we have lots of subsidiaries across different countries. So it's important to actually recognize our customers and know the full footprint, right, throughout all the countries. So what we've done is we've actually established cross-border data sharing. We've got collaborations between data management office as well as legal, compliance, IT security, because we know that whilst we have a good intention, there's also local regulations that we need to comply with. And local regulations in one country might not align with another. So we need to be aligning with all the regulations that we need to be aware of as well. So that's been working okay. I have to say that that's changed the collaborations in UOB. So there's been much collaborations between the group and the subsidiaries as well, and overseas branch. We've trying to then operationalize this to be more effective. So coming up with what type of criteria where the cross-border data sharing is a little bit more straight through. and what are the criteria where it's a bit more complex. So we have to assess it case by case. So we are at that stage now. In terms of the external collaborations, I think what IMDA has released regarding external data framework, I think that's really good. It's providing guidance and considerations in terms of collaborations with other companies. Yeah, so I think that's where I stand.
No, that makes sense. And Guillaume, if I jump towards you, when we're doing all this sharing and there's so much information, is who's managing this? Who's owning this? Whose responsibility should be when it comes to data sharing?
It's a very interesting topic because the area is a bit gray. Because the way we see it in corporate banking is that we look at it, data sharing, as an ecosystem, because we notice that we don't own the client relationship anymore. We are more and more dependent on ecosystem and platform. So we recognize that the client relationship expect a seamless and reliable platform, and therefore it's a change for a bank like ours to have a different offer. So if you look at trade finance, it's very interesting because we're going more and more on those platforms. And I have this question that you just asked from compliance: who owns the data then? Is it the bank or is it the owner of the platform? And it's very interesting because the topic is linked to the technology. So those platforms more and more are scattered servers, so using, for instance, blockchain technology. So in ABN AMRO Bank, we're using a lot Deliver and Congo, but there's many platforms, and Binru is proposing one of them. But there is also it can be things also with the state. So when I received your invitation, what I thought was very interesting is that at this very moment in Singapore, there is an initiative where all the banks are talking about sharing data. If you give me the time to explain, banks rely on documents in the form of bill of lading as the basis of security on financing goods. And the loophole is that without a central repository, the lenders in Singapore are blind as to whether the bill of lading or the physical cargo already been pledged or financed. So what we're doing is that we're sitting down with all the banks, or sitting down, now it's via video conference, but we going around the table, supported by Enterprise Singapore, and we designed a platform that will indicate whether the underlying trade transaction has already been financed through another bank in Singapore. So I think we still own the data, but we share it, and we own the data by silo, but share on a DLT technology. So it is a clear example of demonstrable value in sharing data, where you can reduce the double financing risk, you can increase transparency, and you can put liquidity on the market. I hope I reply your question, Mohit.
No, thank you very much. Actually, you did, because that's very, very interesting to understand, because there are so many different moving parts to this. It's not a simple 1 to 100 answer, because it goes through multiple stages and with stakeholders. Here comes my next question, Pranav, to you, because I want to tee this up very carefully. GDPR, PDPA, very, very important terminologies. And from what I understand, Europe worked on this for over almost 7 years before they rolled it out. But it's been in play about 2.5 years. What's the impact that's having on data sharing?
It definitely has a big impact in terms of what can be shared or what cannot be shared, right? And it goes back to your previous question in terms of who's the owner of the data and whether there's a concern in terms of sharing this information, or is a concern with somebody else who's actually operating the data, right? I mean, the customer can be the end owner, but banks operate on the data with certain responsibility to it. But I might not be too aware from a retail concepts or from a corporate banking perspective, but purely from where I come from in the private banking space, we probably are operating even beyond GDPR and PDPA because we have even more secrecy in terms of how we share the information across to the different parties, even within the organization and outside the organization as well. So from the context of PDPA and GDPR, I think where it broadly comes from is a lot of third-party applications which also source information from banks, which has become the major aggregator of key information. I mean, when I say information, it need not be just financial information because the bank by itself has a lot of other information about the customer as well in terms of how they can get the patterns of their purchases, patterns of buying. You can infer quite a bit of things from the data that they have. So I think these laws or these acts are coming up from that perspective that the data is used for the right purpose and the right context, right? So from that, it's good in a way that everybody is aware in terms of how the data is being shared and how it is being stored and who is being responsible. But I think effectively, I think every organization has its own principles as well, which comply to these GDPR, PDPA, and apparently there's something even on top of that that comes across in different organizations. It's a long answer, but not straight through in terms of how this can be managed or cannot be, because there are always the sideways or the side steps that you can take in certain cases, and certain cases you cannot.
Yeah, fair enough. Long answers are important answers because you've got to get to the crux of it. Otherwise, you know what? It's very surface conversation. And you're right. It is. There's a lot of responsibility over there. So, Binder, I want to pick on you, if I may. How does OneConnect stitch all this together? Because you guys have a pretty amazing platform and the hard work that you guys have done behind this. So please share with us, how do you bring all this together?
I would say when it comes to data and compliance, that's where technology takes a bit of a back seat. OneConnect service only financial institutions, so we have to make sure that the banks are compliant in many ways to the financial regulations, right? And given that OneConnect service 600 banks in China, if anybody lost any data or customer data to say Ping An Bank, we're going to lose credibility. Not on top of that, we're probably going to lose all our financial institution clients. We've taken a lot of steps, like for example, our 7 data centers in China doesn't talk at all and doesn't have any common access with anyone in the Singapore data center. So I don't have access to anything in China data center. What we inherit from China is only the algorithms. So even non PII data we don't take. Like for example, we have a module for claims, for car claims, and there are common vehicle information that is used in China that's also say used in Thailand. Even that we don't take because we didn't want any backdoor between the data centers. And then also from a fintech perspective, when a bank adopts our solution, it is the bank's responsibility to make sure they get users' consent and everything on collecting of data. But still, as a responsible fintech, we make sure that it's embedded in the process. The bank is doing it the right way as part of our own responsibility. And when it comes to any government platforms, the rules are very clear that you violate the rules if your platform captures or keeps any data and use it for other purposes. So usually, say for government platforms, you have to make sure that first the architecture is open source. Second, the data is only used for dashboard reporting purpose, and any other data is archived over a certain period and does not use for any other purpose other than this particular platform's billing purpose. Yeah, so that has to be put in place. From a technology point of view, it totally doesn't address the fact that I don't have common intelligence. I cannot have one AI algorithm across the different countries that grows with intellect at the same time. But that's just something that we had to compromise.
No, that makes sense actually, because and I think that's the biggest challenge of data sharing, right? And making sure what can you share, how you anonymize it at source, and when you do get across, there should not be any backdoor that's left open.